is Jennifer, Jennnifer. Last name is Rodriguez, Rodriguez, Public Information Officer with the San Antonio Police Department. So the arrest today that was made was for capital murder suspect Kevin Luna, 18 years old. This incident stems from back on January 3rd of 2022. Officers were dispatched just after 1 in the morning for the 6700 block of Ingram Road for what they initially believed was a crash involving a 27-year-old male. That male was transported to the hospital where it was discovered that he had been shot once. He succumbed to his injuries at the hospital. Officers were able to notify homicide detectives who immediately began working the case there, again in the 6700 block of Ingram. What they learned was they canvassed the area and found some surveillance video nearby the crime scene. In that surveillance video, they learned of 2 suspects who later were arrested, but those 2 suspects were captured nearby the crime scene on video, making some incriminating statements about the murder that had just occurred. Detectives were able also to find a fingerprint in a fence area nearby where the incident had occurred, and they were able to discover the name of one of the suspects involved. Detectives also were able to apply and obtain a social media warrant. Through that, they were able to again get more incriminating evidence of the suspects talking about the murder, talking about the victim and what the crime that had occurred. Through that, the investigation, again, they learned the names of the suspects. Again, Kevin Luna, 18 years old, and Derek Sentmore, who was arrested yesterday. Mr. Luna was arrested today. Preliminary information and through their investigation, detectives have learned that the victim in this case, 27-year-old Patrick Zavala, for some unknown reason met up with the suspects in this case. They all went inside Mr. Zavala, the victim's vehicle. Mr. Zavala was in the driver's seat and the 2 other suspects were somewhere inside the vehicle. There was some type of altercation that occurred inside the vehicle because the suspects allegedly attempted to rob the victim. That's when the victim was shot and the 2 suspects left him behind, and then officers were later called for, again, what they initially believed was a crash. In the incident, because it's a capital murder, the victim's cell phone was taken, and that was another part of the puzzle that detectives were able to link back to the suspect. It's still an active investigation, but at this time, we do not anticipate any more arrests being made in this case. Again, this is all preliminary. I will now say it in Spanish, and then we can have questions at the very end. Este incidente ocurrió el 3 de enero de este año en la calle Ingram. Oficiales inicialmente fueron a la escena porque pensaron que era un choque. La víctima en este caso, Patrick Zavala, de 27 años, fue transferido al hospital donde murió. Fue descubrido que estaba sufriendo de una herida de bala y luego murió de sus heridas. En el caso, detectives de homicidio empezaron a investigar el caso y descubrieron un video, estaba nearby en la crime scene. En ese video capturó 2 sospechosos que luego fueron arrestados. Esos sospechosos estaban diciendo cosas del crimen que había ocurrido después de la 1 de la mañana. Detectives también pudieron ganar un warrant de social media de uno de los sospechosos donde encubrieron más evidencia en contra de estos sospechosos en este crimen. En este caso, también descubrimos que la víctima en este caso se vio con los 2 sospechosos, entraron al vehículo de la víctima, donde atentaron a robar la víctima de su propiedad. Es cuando fue disparado, y en este caso van a enfrentar cargos de asesinato capital. Los involucrados son Derek Sentmore, and I'll spell the name out, Derrick Sentmore, and he is 17 years old. Again, he was arrested yesterday without incident. And Kevin Luna, who was walked before y'all, 18 years old, he was arrested as well in an unknown location without incident.
¿Las víctimas se conocían? ¿Eran amigos?
No, en este caso no sabemos si la víctima conoció a los sospechosos. Los sospechosos sí se conocían a uno u otro. What I said was that the victim in this case, I don't believe that he knew the suspects prior to this, but the suspects were acquaintances.
But they got into his car for an unknown purpose. Are you guys suspecting that this was a drug deal gone wrong?
I don't want to speculate. At this time, we do not know the reason why they met up in the first place. It is just known that while inside the vehicle, there was an attempt by the suspects allegedly to take some property from the victim and rob him, and that's when he was shot.
Did you comment on any of the nature of what they were trying to steal at that point?
No, but they did take his phone.
They also, the affidavit also mentions that one of them left something in the car. What was that? Did they leave their phone?
I don't know what they left in the vehicle, but the surveillance video that I had mentioned from the very beginning, they spoke about the property that they left in the vehicle that would ultimately lead them back to one of the suspects. One of the suspects left an unknown item in the vehicle that police were able to link back to the suspect.
En español, ¿nos puedes decir un poco sobre encontrar unas huellas o algo así?
Sí, en este caso, después que el incidente ocurrió, detectives como común hacen como block walk alrededor para ver si hay surveillance video. En este caso encontraron un video de surveillance donde capturaron los sospechosos. Los sospechosos involucrados estaban diciendo cosas del crimen, pero también uno de ellos tocó una fence area. Y es cuando agarraron las huellas de uno de los sospechosos y pudieron encontrar su nombre.
You mentioned a social media warrant. What did that allow detectives to do?
It allowed detectives to actually obtain social media from the suspect and one of the suspects involved. So the social media found that the suspects were actively speaking about the murder and they were making incriminating statements that only those involved in the incident would know. So they were able, through the warrant that they were able to obtain, to get a judge signed to get that evidence that goes against their case.
Is that like the private messages?
I don't know if it's like a story, if it's a message, or if it's a post, but it was property that was inside the social media that they were able to get this evidence. Sí, en este caso, detectives pudieron obtener un warrant de una de las cuentas de social media de uno de los sospechosos donde descubrieron evidencia y cosas incriminantes que nomás los sospechosos pudieron saber de este crimen que cometieron.
And who do you believe pulled the trigger? There are two men walked. There's mention in here that Kevin had said he had made some statement that he had shot someone in the justice. Do police believe that the man we just saw is the one who actually pulled the trigger and fired the bullet to kill Patrick?
Detectives do not know who the exact trigger man was, but it's law of parties and capital murder, so they both are just as culpable. That's why they are both being charged with capital murder.
Both of these guys were 17 at the time of the murder. One of them just a month over it. Will they both be tried as adults?
They are adults at 17 years old, but ultimately that's the district attorney's office. But that at 17 years old, you're an adult in Texas.
One more question, guys. One more question. Where exactly did this shooting occur?
6700 block of Ingram Road, so right at Ingram and Northwestern, right behind Ingram Mall, so on the city's west side.
Thank you.
Thank you.